Mario Maker 2's final major update introduced World Maker, a brand new way to package and share your levels. So how exactly do World Maker and Super Worlds work? And how can we create an engaging experience that keeps players hooked to the very end? While the World Maker might not look all that complex on the surface, there is actually a lot to unpack here. From how terrain and paths make your worlds playable, to best practices that make your worlds enjoyable. If you feel like you've got a good grasp on the World Maker already and just want to skip ahead to the game design theory stuff, here's a timestamp for you. But I will say there might be some things you don't know about here, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, let's start with a basic overview of the World Maker and the Super Worlds we can create with it. You can find World Maker directly below Course Maker in the main menu. Next to that is WorldBot, where you can have up to 6 different super worlds saved at a time. It's important to note the distinction between a world and a super world. Picture a super world as a full game that you're able to upload and others can play through, almost like a campaign. A world is simply the map that exists within your super world, and a super world can support up to 8 worlds. Now, Nintendo has done a good job at making the World Maker look familiar to the Course Maker. On the right is your reset rocket, undo, eraser, and save options through WorldBot. At the top is a toolbar filled with everything you need to build and customize your worlds. And on the left are your options, such as changing how many lives are given at the start of your super world, changing the theme of the current world you're editing, as well as adding additional worlds and switching between them. Themes change up the look and decorations of the world, as well as the music. Conveniently, there are 8 different world themes to choose from, and a super world can have up to 8 worlds. However, that doesn't mean each world has to have a different theme. If you really like a particular theme, you can use it across multiple worlds. You can also change the order of these worlds, as well as delete one entirely if you feel like it. Now let's narrow in on the pieces you'll use to create your world. Each world is restricted to a single screen of a 4x7 grid. Each world will also always have one starting space and one ending space, which are not removable. The starting space is exactly what it sounds like, and the ending space is the last level the player must beat in that particular world. When a player beats the last level in a world, they will either travel to the next world, or if there are no more worlds left, they'll have beaten your super world. This ending space will show up as a black and white castle outline when no course is attached to it. To attach a course, simply long press it and select Set a Course. If you'd like to change or delete the course attached to it, as well as pick between 2 different customization options, that can also be done from this long press menu. Keep in mind that the ending space of your final world will always appear as Bowser's Castle, so if you're not seeing any customization options, that'd be why. Up here on your toolbar are 8 different tiles. One tile has no path on it, while the rest of them do. This blank tile can be long pressed to select between 3 different decoration options. These decorations change across all the different world themes. Paths are how the player will travel between different spaces in your world. However, in order for a path to be usable, and consequently the world to be playable, the starting space must be connected via paths to the ending space. Any paths that aren't part of this connection won't show up at all. Now, there are quite a few different options for paths. These first 5 are the most basic and can be reoriented to make connecting them with each other easier. They can also all be long pressed to change their appearance from a land path to a water path. This doesn't change their functionality at all though, simply adding some extra flair to your world. The bridge tile also functions identically to a straight path, just with some extra personality. Finally, the hill tile takes up 2 tiles vertically, and is technically a branching path, although it can only connect to other paths from below, only creating paths horizontally with other hill tiles. This hill tile can't be reoriented, but can be long pressed to change its appearance to a cloud tile instead, which functions the same but does not connect paths horizontally with hill tiles. Now, in addition to your path and land tiles, there are 3 different spaces that are only placeable on a path tile. First up, you've got access to 2 warp pipes. When entering one warp pipe on the world, it will transport the player to the other. This can be helpful to connect two places with something other than paths, and it does actually count as those paths being connected. You've also got 3 placeable bonus rooms. These are minigames with a chance to earn the player extra lives. By long pressing the bonus room, you can bring up its 3 different options: the star matching minigame, the P-switch balloon inflating minigame, and the baseball catching minigame. Finally, the bread and butter of World Maker. Up to 4 placeable level spaces. When placing a level space, you'll be prompted to select one of your levels from CourseBot. Selecting a level will attach it to that space. With a level space placed on a path, the rest of the path connected to the ending space will be inaccessible. Yet once the player clears the level attached to that space, the path will be opened up. Keep in mind that the player isn't forced to clear every level in your world. You could have optional level spaces that don't cut off the main path to the ending space. Long pressing a level space will bring up a plethora of different customization options, as well as the ability to change or delete the level attached. These customization options simply change the look of your level space, although it's worth pointing out that this bottom row will make it so that once the player lands on that space, it will immediately thrust them into the level that's attached, when normally they have the option to select play or not. This is actually a really cool way to emulate the moving enemies on SMB3 and SMBU world maps, as you could attach short levels that require you to defeat all of a certain kind of enemy. Once you've gotten a feel for the World Maker and you'd like to see what you've made so far in action, you can playtest your world by pressing the minus button. This will put you at the starting space of the current world and simulate the actual play experience, other than the fact that there's an option to clear a level instantly. Also, holding the minus button will start your playtest from World 1, in case you feel like seeing how your entire superworld flows together. If you're happy with what you've got, you can go ahead and save your superworld to WorldBot. In WorldBot, you can select a superworld and play it in either single player or local multiplayer. You also have the option to upload it to CourseWorld, although the upload button won't work if there are any courses within the superworld that are not already uploaded. Yep, you heard me correctly. For a superworld to be published to CourseWorld, every individual level must be uploaded as well. Don't worry though, selecting more info will display all the levels across all the worlds in the given superworld, as well as show which levels are not uploaded to CourseWorld, so you don't have to go manually search for each level that isn't uploaded yet. Once you do upload a superworld, it'll exist on your Maker profile. This means that in order to share it, you'll simply share your Maker ID. As you might have guessed though, this also means that you can only have one superworld uploaded at a time. And with our superworld front and center on our Maker profile, that creates a lot of pressure to make sure that it's the best that it can be. I mean, it does for me anyway. From what I've seen browsing through other makers' superworlds, this is just a way to slap a pretty bow on top of all of their hot garbage. Chances are though that if you're watching this, you're interested in creating something players actually enjoy. While this is already a challenge when it comes to building levels, making an entire campaign of levels that flow together and is satisfying to play is a monumental feat. Throw in bonus rooms and branching paths, and you might not even know where to start. While I might not have a degree in game design, or have any real authority to talk about the subject at all, damn it, I just know what is fun to play and what isn't. So I've come up with principles to keep in mind while creating your next superworld masterpiece: planning, pacing, and payoff. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, the way I see it is, if they both taste good, who cares? It doesn't really matter if you made your levels first or your world map first, as long as some degree of planning went into it. If you plan to create your superworld first, then make all the levels for it, I'd suggest grabbing a notepad and planning out what your campaign will look like. How many worlds it will be, how many levels in each world, what kind of levels will they be? These are the most basic questions you should be asking. Although you should also be asking yourself things like, is there going to be a recurring theme? Am I trying to tell a story? Is this going to be a traditional style campaign, or some other sort of level style? These are things you should lock down before you even consider what your map looks like, as the answer might influence your creative decisions. If you've already got a ton of levels and want to turn them into a campaign, I'd suggest making a list of potential courses to add with notes about their course themes, playstyle, and difficulty. Once you've got a good list, you can start divvying them up between worlds, grouping similar themes and difficulties. You should also make sure you've got a basic idea of your campaign here by asking the same questions as well. But for both camps, don't be too strict with yourself. Sometimes a cave level can fit within a ground theme world. Sometimes a puzzle level absolutely feels in place in a traditional styled campaign. The most important thing here is to just have a plan going into it. Know what you're trying to accomplish with your superworld so that every decision moving forward can help achieve that goal. Next up is pacing, and this is twofold with both level difficulty and how your world map is laid out. The same way you'd implement a difficulty curve in one of your own courses, you should also be aiming to have some sort of difficulty curve in your superworld. Proper pacing is one of the hardest things to get right, so don't expect to do it perfectly your first or even 10th time. But here are some basic tips that shouldn't be too hard to follow. Generally speaking, a campaign should begin with its easiest batch of courses and end with its hardest. Now there is a lot of flexibility here, and this doesn't mean that your very first level should be the easiest and your last should be the hardest. It's not a bad thing if a level that is particularly difficult is followed up with one that isn't as hard. In the same way that following up difficult challenges and courses with easier ones, or even just moments of relaxation, following up a difficult course with a less difficult course or a bonus stage can give the player much needed breathing room between levels. This also can determine how your levels are placed on your world map. If you've got two courses with varying difficulty, you don't always have to make them linear. You could give the player the option to either take the easier route and move right onto the castle, or take on the more difficult stage and be rewarded with a bonus room. Finally, the payoff. The most important thing when making a game of any sort is that it is fun to play. Nobody is going to play your levels, let alone a whole campaign's worth of them, if they just straight up aren't enjoyable to play. Although, even if your levels are great, if your superworld isn't satisfying to play through either, don't expect players to finish it. To me, a couple things make for a good payoff, and they are all rooted into what a campaign is going for, as well as their planning and pacing. If I don't notice any real structure or cohesion between the levels I'm playing, I'm going to wonder why they're even part of a campaign at all. If I start to notice a pattern in levels or an overarching story, I'll be driven to complete each one and see where the story goes or if there are any surprises in store. If suddenly that story thread is lost, or the pattern simply repeats itself too many times, I might not be interested in continuing on. After completing a world and being shot out of a cannon to the next one, if I land into this new world and it's not all that much different, or it doesn't look interesting, I might just ask myself why I bothered to even beat that last one in the first place. While I'll admit that all of this is subjective, it's still critical to know what your superworld's payoff is. The payoff isn't simply getting to the end and saving the princess. If you're ready to learn how to make good levels for your superworld, then I've got a video you can check out right here. Also, be sure to subscribe for more Mario Maker 2 tutorials and design theory. I'll see you in the next one.